Welcome, Stuart. It's wonderful to be connecting with you. I've really appreciated connecting with you as part of my BNI, getting to know what you do. And I thought that it would be perfect today for me to perhaps explore some of the questions I've had in my mind that I haven't yet had an opportunity to talk with you about. Because I feel it's really important as a family lawyer that I have a very good relationship with accountants, because I feel that they have a very important part to play in any separation, really. I'm sure you've had a similar experience to me that often when couples do separate, it's never a level playing field, in that often one has perhaps been more focused towards running the household and running the family, and the other perhaps has been more focused on making the financial decisions and having a clear picture about how they're going to achieve their joint goals from the financial point of view. And my experience tells me that the person who hasn't been as involved after a separation often has quite a bit of anxiety and uncertainty around that, and needs to have someone to help them talk through that aspect so that they have confidence about their knowledge and understanding, and then can feel that they're empowered to be a meaningful part of the negotiation process. Is that consistent with your experience in this space?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for the opportunity, Susan, as well. I'm very grateful for doing this, and very excited to be live streaming on Facebook. But going back to your question, yes, 100% agree with you. It can be really overwhelming sometimes in a separation, and you're 100% correct. There's often, we find there is a good relationship with often one of the parties, and that we have a lot of dealings with, and also with people coming across to us. So we help out a lot of our clients understanding their asset pool, I guess, their entities, what those entities mean, and just sort of helping them through, or step by step, helping them through what everything means to them. Often getting tailored advice to the particular client is really important, that actually has the best interest for them. So that's sort of what we aim to do for all of our clients, especially in the very overwhelming, very emotional part of their life in separation, because it's sometimes can be quite complex, and it sometimes can be quite hard in understanding. There's complex rules and things that may occur now that won't be impacted until a couple of years from separation or settlement. So understanding or being aware of these sort of things that can occur before they even occur is really important at a particular time. So that's what we sort of aim to do. Yeah, so that's sort of what I agree with you.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. That was very clear. Another aspect of this space that I've become very, very much aware of, and particularly I think COVID's, because people have become, I think, even more anxious around COVID. It's sort of stressed a lot of relationships. If there were cracks before, they seem to have sort of widened. And there's sometimes there's a sense of greater almost skepticism, I think, in at this space. And what I've found has been really valuable is where I've been able to have a very good working relationship with the accountant who's also supporting the family, and so that the accountant and I can work together. We're on the same page, we're using the same language, we're talking about the same issues and raising the same concerns with the client, so they're getting consistent support. I found that that's very important, rather than, I obviously provide my support and my advice and legal information from the legal aspect, but that's only one sort of dimension of a party situation. And obviously the accounting and the financial one is a very important one as well. And if someone goes to me and gets a certain understanding and then goes to the accountant and gets an understanding that's perhaps not quite complementary, it can create additional uncertainty. So I find that if I've got a good working relationship with the accountant and I'm able to connect with them, then we can both together support the client as a team. And I find that much more meaningful and is much more likely to lead to that client being able to resolve their issues sooner and smoother and much more efficiently. Is that your experience as well?
How could I say no to that? Yes, so I guess, again, it can be very overwhelming in the separation stage, and you don't want confusion. You don't want two parties being third-party suppliers being an accountant and lawyer, giving different pieces of advice that's not complementary. So again, we act for the client and we want the best interests of the client. I'm not a lawyer, so I try to stay out of that space. And if there is a difference of opinion between the lawyers and what we do, we talk to the lawyers first just to make sure that we are on the same page. So we are presenting one front to the client that is best interest for them. That's also how we act with other providers as well, with financial planners and mortgage brokers, making sure that we are telling the one story and making the other parties aware of other things that may not have been thought about in their advice as well. So they are, again, telling the one story. So the client gets the best result. Again, you don't want confusion, you don't want uncertainty in any sort of impact on separation. So it is very, very important.
Are you open to a collaborative approach where maybe it would be where you could meet with the with the lawyer and the clients and perhaps financial planners or mortgage brokers or any other professional that might be needed to support a particular situation, to meet together as a team so that they are getting holistic and broad brush advice?
Yeah, so we do that in a number of cases with a lot of our clients. Often it's so everyone's hearing the same story at the same time. There's no third party or communication breakdowns between either us saying the different thing to the financial planner or the client saying a different thing, even though we may have said the right thing at the right time. So often we do that with a lot of our clients. So again, particularly in family separations, it can be important that the same message is coming across and at the same time. And if there is concerns for certain things, they're being raised in a collaborative sort of environment. So yeah, we do that a lot.
Oh, that's wonderful. Another thing that I wanted to raise as being something that arose only in a situation that I was dealing with last week. Someone came to see me. They didn't have a lot of understanding about the financial history. It was quite complicated. There were companies and trusts and a family business. And they seemed to think, and it was quite difficult for me to explain to them that perhaps it wasn't the best idea to go to the accountant who had been working within this structure with the family, and basically it was the other party who'd been instrumental in this, and they'd been working with a particular accountant. And I had a bit of difficulty in explaining to this client that it would be better for them to get some independent accounting advice so that they had someone who was an advocate for them from that perspective and wouldn't perhaps have some of the issues of being caught in the middle. Can you perhaps share your thoughts around that?
Yeah, that's fine. You're probably heading towards the conflict of interest, or where there is conflict of interest in there. We find that there often, as I mentioned earlier, there's often a good relationship with one party, as you mentioned as well. So often there may not be any conflict of interest with the accountant and the two parties in the as a client, but there might be perceived conflict of interest. Providing tailored advice that's specific to a particular client is really important, and you just don't know if you are getting that with the normal family accountant. You may be getting, you may not be getting. You just don't know. Again. What we try to do is we try to create a great relationship that we then provide specific advice to the actual individual client that's good for them. having an independent review of structures, trusts, companies, self-managed super funds, whatever it is, can either provide different strategy, might provide the same strategy, but it also gives you peace of mind too, that you're actually getting the right advice that's specific for you, that you may not get if you're just using the same accountant as the other party.
You raised a really important issue there, and that is that it's not only whether there is an actual conflict of interest, it's often a perceived conflict of interest. And it's the same in the legal space, that we've got to be mindful of how it's seen from the client's point of view. And if there is perhaps, it could be perceived that there's a sort of a pull and push in the sense of trying to do the best by everybody, then it is best in those situations that both parties go and perhaps get some independent input from someone else. And as you say, that gives peace of mind at its lowest. Hopefully it might give, as you say, a new perspective, new ideas that hadn't previously been considered, but ultimately it does give peace of mind, which is important to create a long-lasting outcome.
Yeah. Well, you just don't want to walk away from a situation not knowing about all the aspects, all the strategy, and then all of a sudden have a massive tax bill that you didn't even know about. You just don't want that.
Yes, well, I think that's where I found accountants have been very, very useful, because they can look at a situation through their lens, through the accounting lens, and they can see perhaps a lot of pathways or options that might be available for that particular structure in that family that maybe others or even lawyers hadn't previously considered. So that, you know, from your point of view, there's often pathways. And as you say, the rules and the consequences and those sorts of things that are apparent to you that might not be apparent to others. So it's crucial to get you to look at what the structure is, look at what the ideas are, and perhaps broaden the thinking so that everyone is confident that the ultimate outcome is the best one for that family.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right, trusts can be complicated, companies can be complicated, self-managed super funds can be complicated, and getting the right results for the client, the specific client for them, and being aware of rollouts and rollover reliefs and capital gains reliefs and potential tax impacts in the future is really important. That needs to be considered in any sort of settlement.
Because often I've found that parties look at a financial situation from the practical. You know, they've got an asset and they've got a debt, and you know, there's a certain amount of equity, and they look at it as to how they can divide that in the sense of sharing it. But it's often far more complicated, isn't it? Because there can be a structure that can impact on the options that are available, and you know. The whole notion of having entities that might be outside of the actual persons involved can be a notion that's hard for somebody who hasn't operated in that world to get their head around.
Yeah, because they often go, okay, that company's mine, it's my asset, but actually that is a separate legal entity, and the trust is sort of similar. But there's things like unpaid present entitlements that need to be considered, personal loan accounts, inter-entity loan accounts. Stamp duty is a big thing as well. If entities are holding property, you just don't want to upset the state government and have all of a sudden be a copper state stamp duty sort of bill. So you do need to sort of consider everything and realise, hang on, they are third-party entities, and sort of deal with them respectively.
So are you able to give me a sense of some of the services that you offer within your organisation that might be of benefit to couples when they're separating?
Yep. So the main sort of thing that we do initially is understanding any sort of structure, and then understanding any sort of valuations. But we sort of, I guess, the breaking it down to pretty simple terms, obviously we provide tax advice. So in any sort of separation, there's going to be some sort of tax impact, and then applying any sort of the tax legislation. So tax advice. We are business accountants, So providing the business sounding board, business advice is also sort of key, and that captures all the entities that we were talking about: companies, trusts, self-managed super funds. So advice is around then. We can assist with valuations too, so getting a third-party valuation. And then obviously there's super advice, which is a separate set of legislation. So specifics, super advice that will help out our clients is something that we can do, and certain scoped forensic accounting that we can sort of help out as well. That's typically sort of the space that we play within in conjunction with what the family lawyer can provide too.
Mm-hmm. And can you give me a sense of about your team and availability to support someone? Often, I've found that people often want to have certainly an initial meeting fairly soon, because they've got all these question marks and it's really worrying them, and they want to sort of have some understanding so they can start to process what's happening in their lives and think about where they might be heading. So they often need some preliminary advice, and then there might be more input over time as they start to get a bit more of an understanding about what the consequences are going to be for them and their family over separation. So can you give me a bit of a sense about availability and timeframes and your team that might be available to support someone?
Yep. So I guess we are a two-partnered accounting firm, and there's 15 of us. So we're a boutique firm, which means we can provide tailored individual services to our clients, and you're not treated as a number, you're treated as a specific person. In terms of timings, I guess we are set up so we work as a team in Rubiix. So we've got a management system, we've got accountants below our managers, and we're set up like that. So a lot of us are aware of client specifics. So I can go on holidays and my management team actually understands what's going on with a specific client, and the accountants below it have an idea of what's going on as well. So depending on the level of advice will depend on the contact they have within the firm. And we're very, we like to communicate with our clients on who specifically they can contact, or because you just don't want to be sort of bounced around the firm, and you want to have an idea of who to call. So initially we'd like to communicate who they are. In terms of timing, I guess with COVID, what we've all of a sudden realized that we can work from home and we don't have to meet face to face. So things like Zoom, we can meet anywhere, wherever. So that's really freed up availability in terms of when we can and can't meet. And also it means clients don't have to come into the city. We're a city-based firm, so they don't have to come into the city to our office. We can meet in person. You can meet in our bedroom if you want. So it's all very good.
And you said early on in our conversation that you have good connections with other professionals and work in a holistic way. Can you give me a sense of the sorts of other professionals that you've got good professional partnerships with?
Yep. So I've been a partner of Rubiix for over 12 years. And I guess to run an accounting firm, you've got to know your lane and what you can provide services to, which means we've got clients that require other services, often other than just specific tax and accounting line. So surrounding ourselves with great providers or great services or other connections is really important. So we are comfortable enough to actually pass these people on to or get services. So we surround ourselves with a typical financial sort of space. That could be financial planners. So we've got a great bunch of financial planners, mortgage brokers, business brokers, commercial lawyers, family lawyers, being yourself, Susan, and any other sort of financial space, estate lawyers as well. So yeah, we've got a wide sort of a network that we can refer our client bases out to them.
Fantastic. Well, I think you've probably covered all the questions that I had on my list. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
Not really. Not really. I guess I don't really want to bore anyone with any sort of specific tax advice. But I guess the biggest thing for me, and we've touched on it a number of times, is getting advice that's specific for you rather than just not seeking the advice and not surrounding yourself with a good team that's actually working for you. I think that's the most important thing, because it can be very overwhelming. There could be numbers and financials and stuff all over the place. So I think that is the most thing. If you walk away from this video understanding, okay, I know 2 people that are really going to look after me, that's really all I want from that.
So what I will do is I will, perhaps, do you want to just talk about the name of your business? So that, and I'll put the contact details in on my page, but if you just want to mention the name of your business now, so that if people want to contact you, they can do that.
Okay. So we're Rubiix Business Accountants. So the name Rubiix is a sort of a made-up term. What it's sort of, and it's got a double I in it. And what the double I symbolises is the partnership between the accountant and the client. So working as a team is really important to us. So it's actually built into our culture. And we've got something called the Rubiix Care Factor as well, where we work really, really hard to communicate and provide specific advice for our clients. As I mentioned earlier, there's 2 partners. So I'm a director, and my business partner, Mark Deviljack, is also a director at Rubiix. And we've both got I've got over 20 something years experience, and Mark's got over 35 years experience. So it's a fair amount of wealth of experience there. And there's 15 accountants and admin team too. We specifically advise businesses, but we also look after high net wealth individuals, expats, investment sort of vehicles, and self-managed super funds. So it's a broad client base that's really not specific to any type of industry, but we work pretty hard to sort of get our clients going to where they want to go in the future. So yeah, the work that's us, based in the city.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you this morning, Stuart, and I'm so pleased to have you as part of my team and the who I can offer my clients to work with me in this space. And I look forward to continuing to work in this way, because it's consistent with my culture as well in my team, and that's what I think benefits my clients. So thank you so much. Cool. And no doubt I'll be speaking with you very soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.